Hello, everyone, and welcome to SPIA's 2021 annual session. Today, Ants and I will be talking about how to lead without being controlling. But first, let's do some introductions. Today, you'll hear from Ants, who is a fourth year at Boston University and is currently Regent 1 on the National SPIA Board. You'll also hear from me, Serena, who is a third year at USC and currently the Assistant Chief Information Officer on the National SPIA Board. Okay, Ants, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Serena. So the first thing we must remember is our mindset. We must enter in a team mindset. Effective leadership requires us to work as a team. This is a group project or a team project, and not one of us can do it alone. All right, so we need to define the group first. Is this a school project? Is this a dental team? Is it a school club? What is the group? What are the roles? Are they predefined? Or is everyone just an equal member of the group with no predefined roles? What are our goals? What do we want to accomplish by the end of our term? When is the project due? What do we want to accomplish with the project? Now let's take a deeper look into the roles. Now there's two things that will probably come across our daily lives in dental school. That's school clubs, organizations, and then also school projects. And these two are very different, and how we tackle these are different. With school clubs and organizations, there are predetermined positions like president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, etc. These positions have predetermined roles and responsibilities in the bylaws. The treasurer has to handle the finances and do the year-end report. The secretary has to take the meeting minutes and keep everything organized for the organization. But one tricky thing about them is there's no defined expectations beyond the bare minimum, and there are very rarely deadlines. The treasurer might have to follow some IRS deadlines. The secretary might have to get a yearly report by a deadline or the annual meeting, but generally there are no hard deadlines. It's up to you to set your deadlines and what you want to make out of your term in that position. And a little preview tip, don't try to control everything. You can't do everything in a school organization or a club. So don't try to do everything. Let people complete their responsibilities. Give them the opportunity to do the role that they ran for. Now, school projects. They have no defined roles or responsibilities generally, but they do have a set deadline and defined expectations that are usually in the form of a rubric. So this allows you to set your goals pretty easily and a timeline. But I think, as we all know, sometimes it's just not that simple. So let's go over some things to do when it's not that simple. Our first tip, ask. Very rarely do people try to get to know their group members. We don't ask what time people prefer to work, what their background is in this topic, or maybe a related topic, what they like to do or what they're passionate about, what they're good at doing, or what they're bad at doing or don't like doing. That way you can kind of plan the responsibilities around what people like doing or what they're good at or what they might have a background in. And you know what? If everyone is bad at something, that allows you to figure that out and maybe put two people on the task, because that task still needs to get done. And if no one's good at it, someone needs to do it. So maybe it might be done easier with two people. So ask your team members what they like. Get to know them. Tip 2, set realistic goals, deadlines, and check-in points. Now, what I prefer to do with these is not set them in stone unless if I have to. Sometimes you need a quick turnaround on something and you just have to set those deadlines and those check-in points and the goals. And it's okay to do that if that is a necessity. But if you don't have a quick turnaround time for your deadline and you have some time with your group, then what I like doing is asking them or suggesting maybe a deadline and some goals and check-in points and asking them what they think about it, if they think it's doable, if they think it's too much time, too little time. And this allows everyone to have their input heard in the deadline setting process. Now, an example of this is, let's say someone has a really busy week in clinic this week and just cannot do their thing, but you set the deadline for the end of this week. Well, odds are they're not going to get that done. They might not respond to you through the week because they're not thrilled with the fact that they can't get it done and they feel a little pressured. Instead, you could ask them if, oh, is the end of the week doable for you? And they'll respond to you, hey, no, actually, I have a triple every day in clinic today. I'm in there 12 hours every day, 6 days this week. I really don't think I'm going to get to it. I'll do my best, but I don't think it's going to get done. Do you think it's okay if I turn it in by the end of day on Monday? And this way, the entire group now is expecting to not have it by Sunday. Instead, they are now expecting to have it end of day on Monday. And they can then plan their schedule around receiving the item Monday night and maybe working on it Monday night or Tuesday morning and doing their portion. So this allows for everyone to be on the same page and to give their input on the deadline, and if it's realistic. Tip 3, compromise. I think we all might have learned by this point in our lives that we can't have everything we want. We need to make compromises. When you're making a compromise in a group or in a team, one thing I want you to remember is everyone has feelings, inputs, and opinions and things they care about in that group. So you have to make a compromise with everyone's feelings, opinions, inputs, goals, priorities, all of that. You have to keep that in the back of your head and make a compromise that appeals to everyone at least a little bit. Now, I don't like coming up with the compromise and just telling everyone what the compromise is. Instead, I prefer to have a brainstorming session. What I do is I present the problem to everyone. I say, hey, it doesn't look like we can all get what we want to get or what we think is the best option for this. So let's just sit down, brainstorm for a minute, and come up with like 2 to 3 potential solutions. Or if you have these solutions in the back of your head, you can be like, hey, like I came up with a few solutions to our problem. I don't know which one's best. I wanted to like have a brainstorming session with you guys and come up with what everyone thinks is the best. And then you present those 2 to 3 potential solutions in a brainstorming session rather than you telling them what the solution is or what you think is the best solution. Now, what this does is it allows everyone's feelings to be heard. And you can then learn from this conversation what things are important to each member of the group, what they really want to see happen. And then you can take that, put it in your head, and come up with what you think might be the best compromise and what you think everyone will be okay with. Maybe sometimes what you think is the best answer is not what will make the most people happy, and you have to evaluate. Is making everyone in the group happy more important to the long-term success of the organization or the team? Or is having that supposedly better plan more important? Oftentimes, you're going to find that having the team happy is going to be more important because that leads to more productivity and better teamwork in the future, and you can get more done in the future. So sometimes it's what you think is best is not always actually the best. Also, let other people make some decisions. This gives people a sense of ownership. Oftentimes, I find myself in group meetings and people, 1 or 2 people, are going back and forth about something that I genuinely don't think is important to our main goals. And I really don't have an opinion on which one's better. So what I will do is if I hear 2 people going back and forth and I think both options are great. Maybe I'll think one's a little bit better than the other, but I genuinely just don't think it's that important. I will say, hey, I think both options are great. I am on board for either one. I personally don't have strong feelings towards or against either option. So how about you guys come to a compromise together and decide and let me know, and I'm willing to support you in whatever way you ask for or need, and I can do whatever you want me to do on the project. I think I can be a help in both potential solutions. So you guys just let me know what you want to do, and I will be there to support you either way. Now, this allows them to make a decision. So now they're invested in the problem and the solution. And they want the problem to come to a resolution and have a good outcome because they're the one that made the decision or they're the one that suggested the idea. And you're going to find that this is going to have better group work from your members. And over time, you're not going to be the one doing everything. Instead, it's going to be more of an equal distribution of roles and responsibilities. So compromise. An example of this is something I came up with. I call it the 4-2-1. And I don't know how many of you guys have spent countless hours scrolling through Netflix or whatever streaming provider you have, looking for a movie. And you're asking your roommate, your significant other, hey, what do you want to watch? And you're not getting much back. You're like, oh, yeah, that looks cool. Yeah, that's great. Sure. Well, I came up with this because my roommate would never tell me what he really wanted to watch. And I learned after a few weeks of living with him, he's not going to tell me his opinion because he wants to make sure I'm happy. So instead, I must get his opinion out of him and allow him to make some of the decisions too, because we are roommates and we're equal, and we both should have an equal say on what is on our TV. So the 4-2-1. Now, this works best in groups of 3 or less because that allows everyone to have an opportunity to make part of the decision, but you can adapt this to bigger or smaller groups, however you see fit, and whatever is going on in the situation. And the key thing is this forces compromise and allows everyone to have an input. So how does this work? I go through Netflix. I will find 4 movies I think I want to watch. Some might be better, or I might want to watch more than others, but I'll come up with 4. And in that 4, obviously, I'm making sure like I'm including some genres that my roommate wanted to watch. Like if he says he wants to watch a comedy, I'm going to pick like 4 comedy movies, or maybe 3 comedies and 1 action. So I have this list of 4. I tell my roommate what the list is. He's then going to pick 2 movies from that list. These are 2 movies he would most want to watch from that 4. And from that list of 2, I'm going to pick the movie we're going to watch. And sometimes in that list of 2, I want to watch both movies. I think they're both equally as appealing to me. So I'll just flip a coin. Or I'll end up watching both movies. But this allows my roommate to have a say in what we're watching. It allows me to kind of narrow down our options and see what I'm okay with. And then at the end of the day, we come to a movie that we both kind of want to watch at the very least. Oftentimes what I find is this allows us to pick better movies. Both people are happy and both people are invested in the movie. One person's not just on their phone the entire time, just waiting for it to be over so that they can pick the next movie. So I encourage you to try this at home with your roommate, your family members, your significant other, whomever. Give it a shot, see how it goes, get their feedback on it, see if they liked the idea. All right, so tip 4, check in. Now, checking in is very important because it lets you take a temperature of the group and see where things are and see if there's someone needs help or if everything's going smoothly and you guys are going to meet your deadline. Now, the key thing about checking in is how you do it. You have to be polite, friendly, and genuine. You can't come off as you're micromanaging someone or you believe they weren't going to get something done in time, so you're checking in to see if you need to do it. That you cannot come off across that way. You got to think about how you want to check in with someone. I always go with a super friendly text like, hey, I hope you had a really good weekend. Mine was really nice. It was so good to get out there and run in the sun a little bit, or do something, have a picnic outdoors, something friendly, sociable, not really related to the task at hand. You want to build those relationships. And then you got to be like, hey, I just wanted to see how things are going. I feel like you got a pretty good grasp on the material. So I don't know if you really need any help or not, but if you do, I am here to assist you. I have some free time tomorrow between 6 and 10 p.m. So if you do feel like you need help, just give me a call, and I'm more than willing to hop on Zoom or Google Slides and just take a look and like give you some feedback or help out if you need it. But if you don't need it, just let me know, and I'll see you Wednesday or whenever you're going to see them. This allows you to politely offer assistance to someone. It also allows them the opportunity to complete the responsibilities that they signed up for or were given. And you don't come off as overbearing or micromanaging. And another key thing is you want to try to set these check-in points in the beginning when you guys are divvying up the responsibilities. And that allows a person to expect the text and also to complete as much as they can by the time you send that text or phone call, so that they can report good news to you, or at least figure out what they're struggling with and ask for assistance at that check-in point. And that gives you the opportunity to plan some time after the check-in point to do things if you need to. So this makes for a more organized group and a friendly group where no one's micromanaging. All right, so we've gone over what you can do during the group project, but maybe the most important point is actually after the project is completed, because you guys aren't going to go out and master everything the very next group project or the very next board meeting for your student organization. These are skills that take time to develop and eventually come naturally to you. So what you have to do is self-reflect. Ask yourself, did you meet the goals that you set for this project? That's the number one thing. Did you guys work together as a team and meet your goals? If you answered yes, we did meet our goals, that's great. Everything did get done that needed to be done. So now you can ask yourself, how can I improve next time? Sure, you got all your goals done, but one or two people did everything. That's not a well-functioning group. So how can you improve next time to maybe get a third person involved in the project and slowly chip away at the rest of the e-board to get everyone involved as you guys do more and more projects or tasks? So you ask yourself, how can you improve next time? Once you've gone through the list of ways you can improve next time and you know what you want to do next time, great. Now we're going to get some positive reinforcement. What went right? What did you do better this time that you didn't do last time? If this time you communicated better with the group and didn't micromanage, tell yourself that. Say, hey, I did better at communicating with the group this time. And I feel like I did better because I did X, Y, Z. I set check-in points and I checked in with the group at those points and everyone responded in a great way. No one did not respond to me, and that has not happened to me in previous groups. So I think setting check-in points is great, and I'm going to keep doing that in my future projects. And you have to think about things like this for every time you work in a group. And over time, these actions are going to become second nature to you. You're going to do them without actively thinking about them. And that is where we really want to get to. That's where we really want to be. All right, so now Serena is going to go over 3 different scenarios with you that you guys might currently be facing or will face in your future careers as dentists. And she's going to break it down and use some of these tips on how to overcome the challenge presented. So take it away, Serena.
All right, so let's look at some examples that you may encounter in your life and how to use some of the tips that Ansh just taught us. So first, we have an example where you're working in a student organization. Let's say you have been elected president of your dental school SPIA chapter. You and your vice president have been clashing opinions about how you'd like to fundraise this year. You want to focus on selling SPIA badge reels, while she wants to focus on selling SPIA t-shirts. How can you lead without being controlling? All right, so based on what we've learned today, let's look at the tips ask and compromise and how they can be used. Starting with ask. Why don't we ask our vice president why she would prefer to sell t-shirts? This is a great opportunity to get to know the members of your team better. Let's say she really enjoys designing t-shirts and she's into creating graphics. When we compromise, so finding a solution with everyone in mind, we can use this. Let's say you preferred the badge reels because they're cheaper to produce and your chapter does not have much money this term. You can suggest that she designs the badge reels. Or you can suggest selling the badge reels until you make enough money to sell the t-shirts she wants to design. Making these suggestions with her preferences in mind will make her feel seen, and you now have a new connection and a solution. Okay, so next we have an example that many of us probably experienced in school. Let's say you were assigned a group project 1 week ago and have 1 week left until the due date. One group member has been unresponsive and has not offered to do any of the work. You want to get everyone to contribute to the project equally. How can you lead without being controlling? This one is definitely tricky. So let's do tips ask and set for this. So for ask, try to ask them when their working times are, what part of the presentation they'd be interested in. And I was talking to aunts about this, and we both agree that going up to our classmates in person and having this conversation is best because it forces them to be present and responsive. But given a lot of classes are online now and you don't see your classmates in person that much, it's not always possible. So text is fine, just work with what you've got. So ask them what time works for them to hop on a call or Zoom to work on the project and try to get 2 to 3 times that could work. Let's say they're only available Tuesday night, then prioritize having the group meet up Tuesday night. If other members can't meet at that time, it's fine. The other group members are responsive so they can be caught up to speed. All right, so once that is sorted, we can set. So setting realistic goals, deadlines, and check-in points. Set a time to start the project. Tell them, okay, I understand that you're tied up until Tuesday night. Let's get started on the slides after our meeting on Tuesday. Then set a time to finish. Maybe have them done a few days before the deadline so the group can have a chance to meet up before the project is due/submitted to go over the work. It's important to note if they never respond, that's okay. Reaching out and giving them as many opportunities to contribute is the best that you can do. Okay, so next we will go over an example that you may encounter in your professional life. Let's say you've recently become an associate at a private dental practice. You've noticed that one of the dental assistants takes long lunches that often leads to them being late for the afternoon procedures. You would like to change this behavior. How can you lead without being controlling? For this example, we're going to do tips ask, compromise, and check-in. For ask, let's ask why they come back late from lunch, politely with intention to learn and not chastise. Let's say they have to pick up their kid from daycare during lunch. Daycare ends at 12:30 and they have a hard time dropping their kid off at home and being able to come back to work by 1 p.m. when lunch break ends. All right, so now let's compromise. Let's find a solution that works for both parties. You could suggest that they take lunch from 12:30 to 1:30 instead of 12 to 1. Or you can have another dental assistant take over their shift for days they need to tend to their kids. Next, we're going to check in. Check in a week after to see if the compromise is working. How is picking up their kid during lunch at the new time? Is this new time sustainable? Do adjustments need to be made? It's important to note that you may be drawn to just fire employees that don't follow the predetermined expectations, but it's worth working with them, getting to know your employees, making compromises, because this strengthens your relationship with them. You connect with them, they'll love and respect you more for it. These are employees that will work long days with you, go overtime, work holidays, and have a sense of pride working at your office. Overall, if you put this effort in with them, they'll put in the effort right back. All right, so key takeaways from this presentation. Learn about your group members, accept that you cannot control everything, and trust your group members. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and that you learned something today. I know I did. We look forward to seeing you at other events at this year's SPIA annual session.